My friends, let me ask you a question, and be honest. Have you ever spent hours, days, maybe even weeks thinking about someone who barely tried to win your attention? Now ask yourself, what was it about them? Was it their looks, their charm? Or was it something deeper, something invisible? That lingering effect that stayed with you long after the messages stopped, the calls faded, or the dates ended. The first step in becoming someone's mental obsession isn't about how you look, what you wear, or even how much attention you give. It starts with emotional imprint, the art of making someone feel something so unique, so unexpected that the memory of that moment becomes tied to you. That feeling doesn't fade with distance. It lingers. It revisits them in quiet moments. It echoes in the most random places, while driving, showering, or hearing a song that reminds them of you. That's the kind of impact we're aiming for. Most people go into connections thinking, how do I make him like me? But that's the wrong question. The better question is, how do I create an experience with me that no one else has given him? Because here's the truth. People don't obsess over others who are nice or even compatible. They obsess over people who make them feel something different, something rare. That's what makes you unforgettable. Not perfection, not performance, emotion. Emotional imprint comes from making interactions with you feel alive, dynamic, and emotionally rich. That means you're not just reacting, you're creating. You're not waiting for him to lead the moment. You're bringing a flavor, a tone, an energy that leaves a mark. You challenge him with wit when he expects agreement. You ask questions that make him pause and reflect instead of just nod and smile. You laugh with abandon when something is genuinely funny, and you show a little spark of fire when something crosses a line. You become unpredictable in the most graceful way. He never quite knows what you're going to say next, but he knows it won't be forgettable. One of the most powerful ways to leave an emotional imprint is through contrast. Most people operate at the same emotional level, polite, neutral, safe. But contrast is captivating. Imagine being soft, warm, and feminine one moment, and sharp, bold, and witty the next. You're showing emotional range, and that range keeps him mentally engaged. He doesn't just see you as one-dimensional. He starts to realize there's depth there, and depth is addictive. We get hooked on people we haven't fully figured out yet. It's also about being present, genuinely, deeply present. When you're with him, make him feel like the rest of the world has faded out. Make eye contact, listen with full attention, respond in ways that show you're not just hearing his words, you're feeling them, interpreting them, engaging with them. In a world filled with distractions, someone who gives their undivided presence becomes magnetic. He won't know why, but when he thinks of peace, of intimacy, of emotional safety, he'll think of you. But here's the twist. You don't have to do this for long. You don't need hours and hours of time. Sometimes a single conversation, a single moment, can leave a deeper imprint than months of surface-level interaction. It's about quality, not quantity. The power of how you made him feel in that one night, that one laugh, that one intense look will outlast dozens of good morning texts. If you want to live in his mind rent-free, don't just focus on being seen. Focus on being felt. Be the moment that moved him. Be the spark that woke something up inside of him. Because once you leave an emotional imprint, you're no longer someone he just met. You become someone he remembers, replays, and starts to wonder if he'll ever feel that again with anyone else. That's how obsession begins. Not through pressure, not through pleading, but through presence, through power, through emotion. And once that imprint is made, he won't just think of you, he'll crave you. Absolutely. Here's an expanded version of the second keynote: mystery over availability. written smoothly without subheadings and around 600 words. Underscore, 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 underscore. There's a reason why mystery is more powerful than constant presence. The truth is, what's easily available is rarely deeply desired. We don't chase what we know we can have at any moment. We chase what feels just slightly out of reach, what makes us curious, intrigued, and maybe a little frustrated in the best way. If you want to live in someone's mind, if you want them thinking about you when you're not around, then you have to stop offering all of yourself too soon. Mystery is not about playing games. It's about pacing. It's about creating space for curiosity to grow. Because curiosity is what makes someone obsess. When they're interested in someone, over-deliver. They text all the time. They're always available to hang out. They respond instantly, say yes to everything, and unintentionally start sending the message, you don't have to try, I'm already here. That energy kills desire. It removes the chase, the intrigue, the tension, the very things that spark emotional investment. Think about it. Have you ever been more drawn to someone when they were constantly in your face? Probably not. But the person who left a little room for you to wonder, to imagine, to pursue, that person lingered in your thoughts, didn't they? Mystery makes a person memorable because it allows your energy to breathe. It invites imagination to fill in the blanks. When you're not fully revealed, when you're not always available, you leave someone wondering about the parts of you they haven't seen yet. You leave questions hanging in the air, and those questions echo louder in your absence than any constant conversation ever could. It's not about withholding everything. It's about holding something back on purpose. It's about leaving space for him to lean in closer, to want to know more, to reach for you, not because he has to, but because he wants to. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that showing interest means showing up 24/7, but there's more power in selective presence. Show him your warmth, your charm, your attention, but not on demand. You want him to start noticing when you're not around, to feel the difference between your presence and your absence. That space, those pauses, are where obsession starts to grow. Because when something good isn't always there, we value it more, we think about it more, we wonder if we'll get it back. Mystery also gives you control over the narrative. When you don't overshare every detail of your life, you get to choose what he learns about you and when. That control builds anticipation. He starts thinking, what's she really like when she's not trying to impress me? What's she like when she's alone? What else is there to discover? And the more those questions build, the more space you take up in his mind. This isn't about being cold or distant. In fact, the most magnetic people are the ones who know how to give warmth and keep mystery alive. You can be engaging without being predictable. You can be kind without being overly accessible. You can show that you're interested without handing over your entire emotional availability like a free sample. So if you want to shift from being someone he talks to someone he can't stop thinking about, then step back just enough to be missed. Hold back just enough to be wondered about. Be a little less obvious, a little less available, a little more unpredictable. Because once you create that mystery, the mind does the rest. It fills in the silence with questions. It replays your words, trying to find clues. It turns a simple interaction into something that feels like a story unfolding. And that's what makes you unforgettable. Not the constant presence, but the echo of your absence. There is a subtle power in vulnerability. Not the kind that spills everything at once, but the kind that's intentional, purposeful, and deeply human. It's not about exposing all your wounds to earn sympathy. It's about offering just enough of your truth to create emotional depth without sacrificing mystery or self-respect. Strategic vulnerability is one of the most magnetic qualities you can embody because it allows someone to feel emotionally connected to you without ever feeling like they've completely figured you out. And that balance of closeness and curiosity is what keeps someone mentally hooked. We often think vulnerability means being completely open, transparent, or raw. But there's a difference between being real and being reckless with your emotions. Sharing everything too soon doesn't build intimacy, it overwhelms it. People aren't drawn to emotional dumping, they're drawn to emotional honesty that's earned. Vulnerability becomes powerful when it's revealed in layers. When someone gets close enough to see a softer side, you don't show everyone. That's when it matters. That's when it sticks. You don't have to bleed in front of someone for them to care. You can show strength and softness at the same time. In fact, it's often the woman who is confident, composed, and self-aware, yet still willing to show her flaws, her doubts, or her past in a grounded way that truly captivates a man's mind because she doesn't need validation, and yet she's still real, still human. That's rare. Strategic vulnerability isn't just about what you share, but how you share it. It's in the tone, it's in the timing, it's in knowing that you can say something deep without turning it into a therapy session. Maybe you hint at a moment in your past that shaped you without diving into every painful detail. Maybe you express how something made you feel, not to be rescued, but to let him see you as a full emotional being, not just a highlight reel. When you do this right, you give him a reason to lean in, to want to protect that part of you, to feel emotionally responsible in a way that makes him invest more deeply. Because here's the truth, people fall for people they feel emotionally connected to. An emotional connection doesn't come from just being fun or mysterious. It comes from revealing that there's something real beneath the surface. But if you reveal it all at once, you give him no space to earn it, no space to feel like he discovered something rare. The magic is in letting him discover you piece by piece. And the more he discovers, the more emotionally entangled he becomes. It's also worth noting that strategic vulnerability builds trust, not only in you, but in how you handle your emotions. When you share something meaningful without making it heavy, it signals emotional intelligence. You're not looking for him to fix you. You're not fishing for reassurance. You're letting him see who you are in a way that's grounded, self-awareness, and real. That's incredibly attractive. That's the kind of energy that makes a man think, she's different, she's someone I want to protect, someone I want to open up to in return. That's the ripple effect. When you open up in the right way, he starts opening up too. And suddenly your conversations aren't just surface level, they're emotionally rich. You're no longer someone he just enjoys, you're someone he starts to feel. And once a man feels deeply around you, that's when the obsession begins, not with your looks or your charm or your attention, but with your essence. So don't be afraid to be vulnerable, just be wise with it. Let it be a tool, not a trap. Let it invite connection, not control it. And most importantly, let it remind him that beneath your confidence and independence, there's a heart, real, soft, and powerful, that he doesn't want anyone else to have. Have you ever had a random memory of someone pop into your mind out of nowhere? Maybe it was something they said, the way they looked at you, a little joke that stuck with you. And even if they weren't physically present anymore, their presence echoed in your thoughts. That's not by accident. That's the power of mental echoes. And it's one of the most effective, subtle ways to become someone's obsession. When you create moments that stick in a man's mind, you don't need to constantly be around. You simply need to take up mental space in a way that's impossible to ignore. Mental echoes are formed through intentional moments, moments that feel different than the norm. They don't have to be dramatic or loud. In fact, it's usually the small, unexpected things that become the loudest in someone's mind. It might be the unique way you said goodbye, a question you asked that no one else ever has, or a comment that challenged the way he thinks. These little mental bookmarks attach meaning to your presence, and once they're planted, they're hard to shake. It could be your voice saying something clever that replays in his head. It could be a look you gave him that made him wonder what you were thinking. It could be how you made him laugh in a way that surprised him. The key is to create emotional texture, not just a conversation, but a feeling. When people talk, they often default to safe topics, but if you want to linger in someone's mind, you have to break that rhythm. You have to offer something emotionally or intellectually stimulating, something he doesn't get from everyone else. One of the simplest ways to create a mental echo is to be specific. Generic compliments fade fast. But saying something only you would notice or say, that stays. For example, instead of saying, "You're smart," you say, "You have this quiet way of reading a room before you speak. It's rare." That level of detail makes him feel seen. And being truly seen is addictive. When someone feels uniquely understood, they begin to crave the person who made them feel that way. Another way to echo in his mind is through contrast. Be unpredictable in the most elegant way. If everyone else agrees, challenge the idea playfully. If everyone is too serious, be the one who lightens the mood. If everyone's talking, be the one who listens deeply. When you bring something different to the table, you stand out. And when you stand out, you're remembered. Timing also plays a role. Sometimes the most powerful echoes are created not in what you say, but when you say it. A perfectly timed pause, a smile that lingers for a second too long, a thoughtful message sent hours after a conversation. It all adds layers to his memory of you. Those layers don't just fade. They resurface, they replay, they grow. Once a mental echo is planted, it keeps doing the work for you. While you're living your life, he's somewhere thinking about what you said, wondering why you said it that way, replaying that moment to see if he missed something. That's how obsession takes root, not through your presence, but through your resonance. So don't underestimate your power to linger. It's not about saying more, it's about saying what matters in a way no one else can. Be memorable not by force, but by finesse. Create conversations that make him think, moments that make him feel, and impressions that don't just fade when you walk away, but only grow stronger in your absence. That's how you stop being just another person he met and start being the one he can't stop thinking about. There's a magnetic rhythm to human attraction, and it lives in the dance between closeness and space, between showing up and pulling back. That dance is what we call the push-pull effect. It's one of the most powerful emotional tools you can use to become someone's obsession, not because it's manipulative, but because it taps into the very psychology of desire. People want what feels just within reach, but not guaranteed. They crave what they can taste, but not yet fully grasp. And the moment they think they've figured you out, pulling back slightly reignites the chase. The push-pull effect works because it creates emotional contrast. It doesn't allow things to feel flat or predictable. One moment you're warm, playful, and engaged. The next, you're slightly distant, a little less available, and wrapped up in your own world. You're not withdrawing affection to punish. You're reminding him that your attention is a gift, not a given. That emotional shift catches him off guard in the best way. It keeps him alert. It keeps him guessing. And most importantly, it keeps him invested. When someone always knows how you'll respond, always knows you'll be there, always knows you'll say yes, there's no edge, no fire, no hunger. But when you can shift gears, when you can be charming and connected and then effortlessly independent the next moment, you create emotional tension. That tension is where the obsession grows, because now he's asking questions. Did I do something wrong? Did she get bored? Is she talking to someone else? That internal dialogue begins to loop, and while he's replaying your behavior, you've already taken up residence in his mind. Now here's the key. It's not about playing hot and cold to confuse someone. It's about being emotionally dynamic. You're not a flat line. You're a woman with depth, with moods, with mystery. You show interest when it's genuine, and you pull back not out of calculation, but because you have a life outside of him, because you're not afraid of space, because you're not chasing, you're attracting. And that difference, it's magnetic. Most people think they have to be consistent to build connection. But in reality, emotional movement builds intrigue. Think of it like a song. If every note were the same, it would be boring. It's the highs and lows, the pauses and crescendos that make music addictive. What the push-pull dynamic does, it turns your presence into a rhythm he becomes attuned to. When you're on, you're fully present, radiant and alive. And when you're off, you're gracefully distant, not cold, but elusive, not closed, but busy. That's what keeps his emotional system on high alert. That's what makes him feel. What makes this especially powerful is that most people are either all in or all out. They smother or they ghost. But when you master the balance, when you know how to lean in and when to lean back, you become rare, irresistible, and completely unforgettable. Let him feel your warmth. Let him enjoy your presence. Then let him miss you. Let him wonder. Let him realize that your energy is something he doesn't just want, it's something he needs. And once he realizes that, the chase becomes emotional, not just physical. The push-pull effect isn't a game, it's a rhythm, a tension, a dance. It's what turns attraction into obsession, and what turns a spark into fire that refuses to die out. The most powerful thing you can do to make someone crave you is to not be there. Not because you're punishing, not because you're playing hard to get, but because your absence is just as intentional as your presence. When you learn to own your absence, you stop chasing validation and start creating emotional gravity. You stop trying to stay visible and instead become unforgettable. Because true impact isn't about how often you show up. It's about how deeply someone feels you're not being there. The biggest mistake people make when they like someone is that they try to fill space. They think that more communication, more interaction, more presence will build connection, but it actually does the opposite. The more available you are, the more you risk being taken for granted. Not because he doesn't care, but because he doesn't get a chance to miss you. To notice the difference between life with you in it and life with you not in it. Absence makes emotions rise to the surface. It activates reflection. It creates space for desire to expand. Owning your absence means you're not afraid to pull back, not as a power move, but as a reflection of your self-worth. You don't chase after attention. You don't beg for closeness. You understand that sometimes the silence speaks louder than words. Sometimes stepping away makes your presence echo louder than any text or call ever could. The people who stay on your mind the longest aren't the ones who talk to you every day. They're the ones who made you feel something and then disappeared long enough for you to realize you missed it. When you own your absence, you send a powerful message. I am whole with or without your attention. That's the kind of confidence that gets under someone's skin in the best way. Because now he has to wonder. He has to ask himself, where is she? What is she doing? Is she thinking about me? And in that quiet space, curiosity turns into craving. He doesn't just notice you're gone, he feels it. And what's more, when you do come back, your return has weight. It's not just another moment. It's a moment that feels important. Because when you're not always there, every time you show up feels like a gift, not a habit. And that's the secret. You stop being part of the background noise in his life. You become the silence he keeps noticing, the energy he keeps reaching for, the missing piece that reminds him what presence actually feels like. It's also a reminder that your life doesn't pause when someone else is in the picture, that you're not dependent on their attention to feel seen or whole. You're out there living, growing, moving, being fulfilled by your passions, your friendships, your goals. And that kind of energy is magnetic. When someone sees that you're still glowing without them, they start wanting to be the reason you light up. They want to be part of your world, not because you pulled them in, but because you gave them something worth chasing. So don't fear distance. Don't rush to fill every moment. Let the quiet do some of the work for you. Let him notice the empty space you leave behind. Let your absence become part of your presence, one that lingers, that lures, that speaks volumes. Because when you stop trying to be unforgettable, obsession isn't built through desperation, it's built through presence and absence, rhythm and mystery, confidence and curiosity, who don't just show up in his life. Linger, echo, become the story he keeps retelling to himself long after you're gone.